All right, welcome everyone to our State of the District for 2024. We are excited to be here tonight to share some of the exciting things that are happening in the district, some of the things that have changed, some of the things that have stayed the same, and some of the things that we are moving forward with. So tonight, we are going to go through our welcome and introductions. We're going to revisit our mission, and we're going to introduce our one plan that we have been focusing on starting this year for the next 3 years. We'll do some financial updates and our closure. So tonight, we want to make sure that we welcome everyone. We appreciate the people who were able to be here in attendance tonight. We have a lot of our district building administrators here. We have Nicole Talby, our president of the Board of Education. Thank you for being here tonight. We also have some attendees here. Thank you for making time for this. And we have our viewers who are going to be seeing this at home. We appreciate the continued engagement and interest in what we're doing as a district. So thank you for all of that. As a district, we have a mission. Our mission is that we will create a responsive learning community where all students are guided, valued, and challenged along a pathway to success. That is the core mission of what we do and why we do what we do. That mission is the broad overarching mission of the district that is guided by 5 key principles from our strategic plan. That is student achievement. First and foremost, we want to make sure that all students are achieving at their highest potential. We have a focus on social emotional development. We understand that we have to make sure students are ready to learn before we teach, so making sure that they have the collaborative skills, conflict resolution skills. We have a focus on diversity, equity, and inclusion. That means that we are a diverse district and we understand and value everyone who is here with us. We create an inclusive environment where they feel valued, and we provide equitable services so everybody gets what they need, when they need it, and how they need it. We do that with a keen focus on our financial stability, that we are able to be transparent with our community about our funding, where our dollars are spent, how we align them to our priorities. And then we do all that with a culture of trust, that we are invested in building strong relationships, making sure that we have trust with our constituents and our community. One of the things that we also have done is work with our community and our business partners to make sure that our students, when they leave us, don't just leave with a high school diploma, but they leave with the skills ready to move them into the next part of their journey. So that could be that they are moving into enrollment in a post-secondary option, enlistment in the military, entrepreneurship and starting their own business, or moving into the world of work. So we make sure that what we have heard from the community is that we want to make sure that our students not only leave with the academic skills, but the skills around communication, critical thinking, integrity, empathy, adaptability, and a learner's mindset to continue to learn and grow in whatever their next step is. So those things get put into our pre-K through 12 process so that those skills are embedded in the daily work that we do with students. That all boils down to a continuous improvement plan that for the next 3 years we are intently focused on 3 main areas that we expect to see growth. Those 3 areas are making sure that our students are in school, reducing absenteeism so that we can make sure that students are in school and learning. The classroom environment, making sure that all of our classroom and school environments are safe, healthy, and productive environments, and that we have a keen focus on raising the academic bar and making sure that all students are succeeding. So tonight we're really going to dive into those 3 areas, and we're going to make sure that our community knows that we have a laser focus on continuous improvement and that over the next 3 years there are going to be noticeable changes and improvements in very key strategic areas. So I'd like to introduce for our first section Jake Kuhnlein, our Director of Student Services, who is going to begin our update with absenteeism.
Thank you, Daryl. Hope you can hear me okay. As Daryl said, my name is Jake Kuhnlein. I am the Director of Student Services. Greetings and good evening to everyone. We have a student here. Good evening. We have teachers, staff, administrators, board members, community members. Just really appreciate everyone being here. This is not an Academy Award speech at all, but I do want to start by just saying thank you. I started working here 128 days ago on June 24th, 2024, and I feel really grateful to be here amongst just really incredible, hardworking, resilient, scrappy, fun, caring individuals. And so I couldn't start talking about absenteeism without just saying that I feel really humbled to be a part of Northwest. And 128 flies by when you're having as much fun as we have every day together. So I want to also thank our school administrators, our teachers, and our staff. The research is super clear that the work while I'm presenting tonight is not about me or anyone at the central office. The research is clear that the number one thing that impacts students every single day is the teachers. The second thing that impacts students the most every single day are the leaders supporting the teachers. And so I hope tonight that while I will present a few things, we'll also lift up the voices of those in the trenches, in the schools, doing the incredible work to lead our students to success. And I also just want to thank everyone that touches student services in any way, shape, or form. So while teaching is the most critical job inside of our schools, there are so many people that are doing work to also support around that as well, from our nurses to our counselors to our enrollment team to our deans to our athletic directors, coaches. I'm sure I am leaving people out, but there are just so many other people, our other staff, our custodians, facilities, so many people that make this work possible and make it so that our kids want to run to school. So that's our pivot to absenteeism, is it really is a team effort. Attendance matters. We know that in theory, but we also have learned more and more in practice that it is a prerequisite, and it might seem overly simplified, but for the students to learn as much as possible, the first thing is they have to be at school. When a student misses 2 days of school a month, they miss 20 days a year, they miss 30 hours of math, they miss 60 hours of writing and reading, they end up missing over a year of school before they graduate. So it adds up, and sometimes it adds up so quickly that sometimes our students or our families don't even know or realize that. Poor attendance influences reading proficiency by 3rd grade. By 6th grade, it becomes a leading indicator for dropout rates. And we know that students that grow up in poverty, that have other additional obstacles and barriers, are even more deeply impacted by their ability to get to school and even more impacted by what happens when they're not at school. So we just know that it matters so much. In 2016, the state of Ohio redefined our focus area for absenteeism. And while many schools across the state and the country were really focused on average daily attendance, the percentage of kids that were at school every single day, new legislation called House Bill 410 really redefined and asked schools to put an emphasis on truancy and also chronic absenteeism. Truancy counts only unexcused absences and really puts the focus on compliance and ensuring that families are at school and that we have systems in place to ensure that they are there, and spells out for us what we do when they're not there. But they also require schools to focus on chronic absenteeism. So beginning in 2016, every school across the state began measuring the percentage of students that miss 10% or more days of school in a given school year. Why does that matter? Because it really showed us some enlightening data points about our families and students across the state that we might not have noticed if we were just paying attention to averages. If we're just looking at 95% of students at school, we might miss the fact that 15% of our students are actually missing such a significant number of days that their learning is being impacted, their social emotional well-being is being impacted, so on and so forth. So how did we get to this point where absenteeism rose to the level that it would make up 33% of our one plan? Well, prior to COVID, chronic absenteeism was relatively stable across the state. And in fact, across the state in the year before COVID, the state had a chronic absenteeism rate of 11%, and our school in our district was right in line with that at 11%. Sorry, the state was 11, the district was 12. So prior to COVID, we were monitoring chronic absenteeism, but really only about 1 out of every 10 students was missing more than 10% of the days. As soon as COVID hit, though, and schools were grappling with how to provide a new type of learning, how to grapple with the devastating health impacts of that pandemic, you can see from this graph that chronic absenteeism really skyrocketed across the state, across the country, and Northwest Local School District was no different. And in fact, our data was very much aligned with what we saw in urban, suburban school districts, where it really rose really quickly. And so you can see that in the 21-22 school year, we have a pretty significant gap in those 2 school years between the state average and Northwest Local School District. In 2021, we had about a 13% gap between our district and the state. In 21-22, we shrunk that down to about 11% gap between the district and the state. And then last year we saw progress. Before our one plan was even finalized, school leaders really started working hard to say, let's get our kids back, let's figure out strategies to get everyone back in the building, learning and making up for lost instruction. And so you can see we closed the gap even further and got it less than 10% last school year. And then again, we closed the gap again from 33.7 to 25.6. So there's been a ton of progress that's been being made well before we wrote a one-plan strategy around this indicator. And so just want to name that we are making progress in this area, and we have a really ambitious goal that over the next 3 school years, we'll decrease that even further by 15 percentage points over a 3-year period, or 5% per year. So where are we in terms of progress towards our goals? Well, in terms of average daily attendance, as of last week, average daily attendance for students across the district is up 2.5%. So we ended the year last year at 89.5%, and as of October 25th, we're up 2.5%. This is not quite an apples-to-apples comparison, given that the data point in the red bar graph is from the end of the school year, and the blue bar graph is from where we are last week. But I do want to articulate that 2.5% is significant. When you're talking about a district of 8,000 or so students, you're talking about 200 more students in seats learning every single day this year when compared to our average daily attendance from last year. So we are making progress on an average daily attendance front. When we look at our chronic absenteeism, a much more complicated data point to measure, last year we finished based on what the state of Ohio reported at 33.7%. So 1 out of every 3 students last year were still chronically absent, still missing 10% or more school days in a given year. And as of last week, I'm really happy and proud to share with you all that we have an estimated reduction of 7.4%. And I do want to say a cautionary tale about this data point. Chronic absenteeism is very dynamic to measure. Every time a student enrolls, the denominator changes in our FTEs. Every time a student withdraws, the denominator changes. Every single school day that goes by, the math changes. So it is very complicated. So you'll see up here that we're saying estimate because it changes every single day based on so many different factors. But a 7.4% reduction at this point in the year is also really significant when we're talking about a district of this size. That means there are 600 fewer students right now that are not chronically absent that may have been chronically absent last year. That is a big shift and should be celebrated in terms of the progress that we're making. And so before I pass it off, I just want to say that we are making progress, but we do have to keep our pedal on the gas. There are students that we know we need to continue to keep track of, find strategies that work for, and there are intentional actions and things we're doing to continue to improve across our district every single day. So every single school now has an attendance team that meets on a regular basis to review data at a whole school level and on a student-by-student level to problem solve, to address things that are coming up and remove barriers. We have shifted our focus from not only just focusing on truancy and doing the things that are compliance related when our students are already past the 10% or more point, but we're really focusing on early interventions to ensure that we are really motivating and influence our students that are here every day, and also looking at students that are starting to creep up and get closer to 10%, trying to figure out what strategies and supports are needed to stop them where they're at, keep them coming back to school, and not get them to a place of being chronically absent. We're working with schools to figure out how they build even more capacity. This is no secret. I'm looking at my teachers and administrators right now. It's no secret that schools juggle and take on so many things during the day. So to put more emphasis, more time, more resources into this effort is a big lift. And so we're always thinking about how we build capacity to continue to do this work. And then again, because we have no skeletons in our closets, we do have students and families that we know we're not currently finding strategies for that are working. And so we have to keep getting creative and innovative about how we reduce those barriers and how we solve persistent challenges for families or for students that have things that are getting in the way of them being here every single day. And so at this time, I want to welcome a couple schools up, one at a time, to share some of the promising practices that we've seen between last year and this year. because their work, again, isn't about me. Their work is about what's happening every single day. So I'm going to first ask Principal Casey Schurz to come up and talk on behalf of Taylor Elementary. Last year, Taylor Elementary had an 8% reduction in chronic absenteeism just over the course of the year before our one plan was even finalized. So Taylor Elementary staff and students were doing great work together to make that reduction last year. At this point in the year, they're yet again seeing another significant reduction of 5% or more in chronic absenteeism. So if you think about it, that means over the last 2 school years, Taylor Elementary has improved their chronic absenteeism by a minimum of 13%, which is pretty incredible work. So Dr. Schurz, you want to go by Dr. Schurz? Mr. Schurz will share with us a little bit about what they've been doing to make that happen. And we appreciate you coming to share some promising practices, Mr. Schurz. Dr. Schurz.
Thank you very much. Okay, well, thank you for having me, Mr. Kuhnlein. Mr. Yater, we appreciate you allowing us to have an opportunity to talk about things. As many of our schools in our district, you know, we've taken the focus to make sure that we're identifying areas where we can support students in the area of attendance. If students aren't in our buildings, it's difficult for them to learn. And you've heard that a couple times tonight, but really the importance is to just make sure we're identifying things that we can do in our buildings to be upfront and be transparent with what we're wanting to do as a building and with the support we need from the community. So I'll just talk about a few things. Ms. Childress really spearheads this. She is the assistant principal at Taylor Elementary, and last year her and her very small team really took some initiative in putting some things in place. So I just kind of want to talk about a few of the things that we were doing. So we were taking the time to make sure that we were tracking the daily attendance and making sure that we had weekly reports that we were getting, and utilizing this data to add a progress monitoring piece to the data that we were reporting out to our district and as well as the community. And so it was something that was at the forefront of the things that we were doing. We were looking at it often, as I stated, we were looking at it weekly, and we were making sure we were tracking what we were doing and how we were doing. So just being cognizant of the things that we were doing really helped us keep a good focus on where we needed to go to try to make some of these improvements. We also, at the beginning of the year last year, our attendance, we had an attendance section in our staff newsletter because we felt also the communication with our staff would roll over into the classroom, which then would hit home. Having those conversations, because a lot of phone calls are made from our teachers to families and asking questions about how are things going, what's going on, how can we help. So we were doing some of those things and making sure that we were putting things in our Taylor newsletter each week to our families. So we put that in place last year as well. Our OP ran our OP4, which is our office personnel, one of our secretaries along with Ms. Childress, like I stated. They were running reports weekly that were allowing us to see and identify specific students that we could have conversations with. So that was happening. And then mid-year, we were looking at what other steps could we take. So I know that Ms. Childress, our attendance team, we reached out to Mr. Pining, who took the time to start to go through a process with us on how to identify the percentages per student, and then we were able to earmark that and finding out what percentage of the students' attendance were hindering them, and then making individual phone calls to some of those, what we would call more heavy hitters, our students that we're finding that were being more chronically absent in our buildings. And we were finding some things that obviously were out of our control at times. You know, students have illnesses, students have things that they're dealing with medically, but for us to be able to see that and identify that really helps us put focus on other areas where we can support them. So as Mr. Kuhnlein had made mention earlier, we did see a result in a 8% decrease last year with an overall of a 27.3% chronic absenteeism rate that we had last year. And so again, that's not just that specific team, but making sure we continue to have those conversations in our classrooms, and our teachers really did a great job of supporting that initiative, which then kicked us into this year. And I might be over my 3 minutes, so I apologize for that. But kind of kicked us into this year and wanted to just have some conversations around the things that we were doing. As you saw, our three main focuses around attendance, behavior, and academics. We put a team together, as many of our other buildings have done, to make sure that we're looking at weekly reports. We're looking at what we can do to intervene, how we can communicate and identify interventions to put in place and action steps that we can do with our individual students. We bring this into our daily work that we have weekly with our conversations in our teacher-based team meetings, where we talk about, hey, can you identify, are we missing someone? Conversations that we have there have supported that. And I'll be honest, this team has just taken off this year to provide the supports and the things needed for our building. So hopefully we're going to continue to see that percent decrease as we move throughout the year. We also started to find, again, the conversations through our newsletters. We did not stop that. Sending home, we decided to send home a attendance contract this year with families. Obviously, you know, when things are in front of you and you're seeing them and you're understanding the importance of things, and it's a simple signing of a contract of what you're going to do as a child and a family to be at school is a huge jump to making it actually happen. It's one of those goal statements that we can make happen with making sure that we're putting those things in place. We also, before school started this year, we identified some of our main heavy hitters, what we would call, and we made phone calls. We drove to homes and we had conversations with them about, hey, how are things going this year? Do we have a plan in place to try to support you? Are there things that you might need to have in place that we could help with? So we did that also this year as one of the newer things that we put in place. And then we created an overall attendance folder inside of our documents for our one plan around attendance, and really made sure that our teachers had the ability to access the things and see things that they would need to have the conversations that they might need to have during conferences or, again, parent phone calls. So really just continuing to put an emphasis, try to put strategies in place to be able to support are the things that we worked on at Taylor. Again, Ms. Childress and her team have done an outstanding job. So doing that along with the grade levels and the teacher support, we couldn't be where we're at without all of that. So again, thank you for giving me the time to talk tonight and talk about some different things and strategies that we put in place to try to continue to decrease our attendance at Taylor Elementary to stop the chronic absenteeism so that our students are able to learn and be present every day. So thank you.
Casey, when you're a doctor, you get to have as many minutes as you want. I thought this was working. It's not working. So next, I just want to ask Miss or Dr. Grody, whichever one, Kristen Grody, to come up to share a few promising practices on behalf of White Oak Middle as well. White Oak Middle has also seen some incredible gains in getting kids to school every single day. Last year, a 4% chronic absenteeism reduction, again, before we even had this one plan finalized, and then this year on track to reduce it by another further 7% at this point in the year. So just want to have our middle schools represented tonight and share a little bit as well, and I can't wait to hear a little bit more about this picture too. So.
Oh, geez, great. Hello and good evening. My name's Kristen Grody, and I am in the middle of my second year here at Northwest Local School District and at White Oak. And I think we can all agree that middle school is just about the hardest time to be alive. Sometimes you're so unsure of who you are as a human. Kids come in just seeking to find where they belong. And so I have approached thinking about school attendance from a specific perspective, which is a perspective that I have as a building leader, in that if kids, we need to create an environment that kids want to come to, and specifically I call it inserting joy into the school day and being really strategic about it. So last year we started, and if you could see my graph, it was flatlined at a high level at about 40% chronic absenteeism for the last 3 years. And ultimately, we had to start by educating our staff and our administration and really what that meant. So how do we track chronic absenteeism? What does it mean? We did start doing some instruction with our families as well. I decided to send home an all-school mailer in January, which included first semester report card, MAP scores for reading and for math, and then also had an individualized letter for each family that told them what their students' attendance rate was for first semester and what that meant. Because I think when we hear 90%, like that sounds pretty good. But the truth is, that is a failing percentage for attendance. You fall below that 90 into 89.9, which we're trained to think is a B+, and now you are marked chronically absent by the state of Ohio. So really starting to get, especially those parents in that, kind of in that window, that 87 to 92, they're right there. Like they just need to be reminded and taught what does it mean to get their kid there a little bit more. So last year we really started to build a culture, started to build systems around attendance, but also around other things around the school. And thankfully, we were able to exceed, our state report card expectations for reduction in chronic absenteeism. And because we were able to get those points on our state report card, our overall report card rating increased. So it does have a huge impact. So this year we have hit the ground running even further. So as Jake and Casey mentioned, we all have attendance teams. My attendance team meets weekly. We have once a month attendance team that is called my action teams at White Oak. I actually have 2 action teams that are focused on decreasing our chronic absenteeism rate. One of them is our improving student attendance team, which does include our front office secretary. It has a representative from every grade level, as well as a counselor and a dean. And they meet once a month and go over school data and come up with school-wide plans to help support student attendance. And then our leadership team meets weekly. They ensure that the letters go out on time, that we're tracking changes in student attendance, that we're reaching out to individual teams, and are connecting families to teachers and to plans to help support them. The other team we have that is working with attendance is our partnering with families and community. It is my hypothesis that when your family is cared for and when you feel a part of a community, that you will send your child to school. So that team is also working to track our attendance. And we have, like I said, worked on inserting a variety of pieces of joy. So this is Who Day. Last Friday, we had Who Day come out and surprise all of our students who had perfect attendance first quarter. There was 102 of them. 15% of our students at White Oak came every single day for every single minute, and that felt like something to really be celebrated. So they had a surprise pep rally with Who Day, got to have things signed and take pictures. We hosted an attendance spirit week that featured a variety of themes, including Twin Day, grab your buddy and get to school. And we are about to kick off No Miss November. So in November, this will be for any student who does not have any unexcused absences or tardies, because trust me, if you're sick in November, please stay home. But this is, we did this 1 month last year in February. This is also to help educate families. We need to know when your student's not at school and why. We need you to call your students in. We need you to send in those doctor's notes. So anyone with no unexcused tardies or unexcused absences will be invited to a school-wide celebration at the end of November. And we are working on elevating student voice and amplifying it. So our attendance team put out a survey that all of our students took in their warrior time, asking them about their sleeping habits, their attendance habits, asking them what most makes them want to come to school, just really kind of elevating them thinking about their own attendance. And then they followed it up. They sent a survey to ask students about No Miss November and what kind of a party do they want to have? How do they want to be celebrated? What kind of school-wide celebrations do they are they most interested in? So they're going to compile those results and use those results to decide what kind of celebration that we are having at the end of November. The last thing is that we are just continuing to educate staff, and really one thing we're working on, like I said, is targeting that middle ground. So we are sending out information about attendance in all of our weekly newsletters to families, and also sharing the breakdowns. So we know that like 15% of our students had perfect attendance. How many students, were in the range of 95 to 99? How many were 90 to 94.99? How many were in that danger zone from 85 to 89.9? And really, we're going to be looking at, as we step into this quarter, looking at those 87 students. Because if we can get half of those students to move from being barely on risk to being on track, that would be 5% reduction in chronic absenteeism alone. So we are continuing to pour the mandatory resources into supporting our students and families who are struggling with truancy, but the truth is most of our families don't rise to that level. They're chronically absent, but never labeled truant. So we're really working as a team to come around that population of students so that we continue to have more students show up to school and feel heard, seen, and feel some joy, like Who Day.
Thank you, Kristen. Thank you, Casey. I really appreciate it. I mentioned that I started on June 24th, and Kristen talked a lot about inserting joy. It was the very next day after being approved by our wonderful Board of Education, June 25th, that I started meeting with each principal to just ask them questions, learn more about the district. And the very next day, the 25th, I went to White Oak, and I met with Kristen, and about 2 minutes in, she's like, we can keep talking, but we have something we're gonna have to do in just a minute. I was like, what are you talking about? And all of a sudden, Kristen grabs a giant speaker, like a boom box, makes me drag it down the hallway with her, goes into a classroom, throws on music, and does a celebration for a student that had just passed summer school. So that kind of like spontaneity and inserting of joy into the classroom are things that I think all of our leaders are doing to work insanely hard, and our teachers, to make kids want to be at school every day. And it shows up in the data, but it also shows up in our kids' lives and the way they feel about school. So speaking of, we're going to shift gears and talk about our school and classroom environment goals and the One Plan as well. School culture matters. Classroom culture matters. In any organization, the way people feel when they're in an organization, whether it's the office or a classroom or a school building, matters. This impacts students' academic performance, it impacts their well-being, it impacts their engagement and behavior issues, and it certainly also impacts the teacher experience too. And as we started our conversation tonight saying, our teachers have the most important job in our district and in our classrooms. And so we're going to give an update on where we're at with our classroom environment as well, because at the end of the day, our kids matter most. And so we set out a goal in our One Plan also to really shape the classroom and school experience by going through a process that our curriculum and instruction team will talk a bit more tonight about, to really collaboratively set a clear vision for excellence in the classroom, both in terms of classroom environment and in terms of instruction. And we set out an ambitious goal of ensuring, supporting, developing every single teacher to have a rubric score or a growth continuum score of 4 or higher on the components within classroom environment over the next 3 school years. And so we said to ourselves, what do we want to see in every single classroom to ensure that every teacher and every kid gets the environment that they need and want, so that they want to come to school every single day? Because once they're at school, we need them also to be engaged in school. And so we really are trying to look in our classrooms and say, are there clear and consistent expectations? Are there efficient routines and procedures that allow our classrooms to run like well-oiled machines? Do we have both high expectations for our students and high supports to help them meet them? Do we see authentic relationships and true authentic engagement between students and the staff and the teachers at the school and inside of the classrooms? And then finally, is there joy and is there a love of learning? As we started going through classrooms this fall, and we visited every classroom across the district, as a baseline, this is our first year doing this, but roughly half of our teachers are already scoring a 4 or higher. And we also know that this was just one snapshot in time. We know that many more of our teachers are also performing at this level and having great results with kids in great classroom environment. This was just an initial walkthrough to collect a baseline data. It's an incredible start, but we want to support every single teacher and staff member to feel like they can accomplish this goal in their classrooms as well. Our classroom environment growth framework is broken into 2 big focus areas. The first is routines, procedures, and transitions. We know that both teachers and students thrive when there are procedures and systems that let kids know what to expect and save instructional time and make sure that class just runs very fluidly throughout the day. 60% of our teachers are already scoring a 4 or higher on that focus area in the rubric. The second focus area is around relationships and engagement, because we know when people feel good in the classroom, they learn more too. Over half of our teachers are meeting a 4 or higher on this area of the rubric as well. Combined is how we arrive at the 50% having met that bar of 4 or higher for both of those focus areas. So we're really excited about the baseline data because it helps us get really strategic in the same way that we've been getting strategic about student attendance with supporting and developing our teachers as well. We've also started looking at our students in the same way we're looking at attendance in terms of tiers of support. So there are some lessons learned from the state of Ohio saying, hey, we want you to look at attendance and look at students in these categories of, hey, they're meeting the mark, they're coming every day, they're tier 1, the universal systems in place at the school are working for them. Tier 2, these students might need extra incentives, extra support, but with those extra incentives and extra support, they can meet the bar too. And then tier 3, an even smaller subsection of students that really need some intensive supports and that we might be trying to think creatively and innovatively about what they need. So this year we've started applying a similar framework to our school and classroom environment as well. So we've actually started looking at our student discipline referrals and using research basis to implement a multi-tiered system of supports. In a typical research basis perspective, roughly 80% of students thrive in school just based off of the universal expectations, systems, and procedures that exist. Another 15% need some supports, but then they meet that bar. And then there's 5% of students that need some intensive support that may even need to take place outside of the classroom at periods of time during the day. Based on our current discipline data, we have a relatively similar pyramid as research would suggest. Now, this is the beginning of the school year. More students will get more referrals. We will continue to hold students to high expectations and hold them accountable for their actions. But after our first quarter, 94% of our students across the district have 0 to 1 referrals within the first quarter. 5.4% of them have anywhere from 2 referrals to 5 referrals in the first quarter. And then research would suggest students in one quarter that have 6 or more, we need to start thinking about what it is to help them be more productive and successful in the classroom. 1% of our roughly 8,000 students fall into that category at this point. So why do I bring this up as I report out how our classroom environment and school environment is doing? Because we want to get really surgical and precise about who our students are that need the most support, so that we can provide that for them, provide that for the teachers, and make sure that every kid and every teacher and every staff member gets what they need to be successful. Through those systems of supports, we have an array of services and supports that we provide our teachers in our schools. Every single school has their own school-based interventions that they use every single day to help kids meet expectations and be successful in class. We also have counselors in every school building. We have deans in every school building. We have alternative learning placements in every school building and outside of our school setting. We have BCBAs and RBTs, which are roles in our schools that really help our staff and our administrators get clear data-based solutions and behavior plans and safety plans for students that need it. We have therapists that are available across the district through our partnership with Best Point, and we also have Transitions Academy. All of these things we use to ensure that our students are meeting high expectations and also getting the supports they need to be successful. We think that we're having success in doing so by working collaboratively and getting kids the support they need, but we know there's more work to be done. Safety will and always remain our top priority at Northwest Local School District. And in a time across the country where safety is a concern everywhere, we are no different in facing that challenge, but we face that challenge through really, really smart interventions, through strategies and partnerships between our school, our administrators, our local community partners, including our law enforcement, fire department, and more. We also care about the day-to-day experience. So while I can talk to you till your head is blue in the face about the data that suggests that we are making progress, we care deeply about the day-to-day experience, about our teachers and our staff and our students. And we know that there are hard moments and we don't want those moments to shape our experience for our staff because we want to keep our incredible people every single day. We also know that we want to continue to support our teachers and develop them. We have seen at schools like the school that we'll have come up and share in just a moment, Pleasant Run Elementary, in our schools where the schools have been very focused and intentional about getting more teachers, more development, such as our partnership with Kid Whisperer, which is a 3-day professional development experience for teachers every single summer. We see the data playing out that there are fewer referrals, fewer exclusionary consequences, fewer confrontations, and more. We also want to continue to deepen collaboration. The Student Services Department should be an extension of the schools. The Special Education Department should be as well. We believe that collaboration and trust and relationships matter in this work too. And and as well as curriculum and instruction and so many more departments. But we know that that trust and collaboration is really important. I mentioned MTSS in early intervention, but we're getting very serious about making sure that we use the data to identify what kids need and be really urgent about finding what that is and get it for the kids in the schools. We're continuing to monitor classroom engagement, figure out what kids and teachers need, and we also know that our administrators are really working hard and need more support on balancing the reactive that comes up during the school day and the proactive. And we know that, we hear that, and it's something we're going to continue to provide supports to help them with because we know there's so many things happening in a school day that are both reactive and proactive, and we want to continue to offer that support. And then finally, Tier 3 supports. We want to look at those top-level students, that small cone, that red piece in the top, and make sure that those students get what they need. And we're not going to shy away from having those conversations to get those students what they need as well. So, at this point, we'll end with three more promising practices. So I'm going to bring our high school administrators up, Aaron Davis and Alex Shrewsbury, who have worked really collaboratively to put on a clinic, I would say, on what change management looks like this year, based on piloting some new programs and supports that our teachers have been asking for and our students are really experiencing success for. And then we'll also bring up Pleasant Run Elementary to talk about some of their success that they've been having in classroom and school environment as well. So I won't keep belaboring the doctor joke, but I do want to wish Erin a happy 30th birthday because she celebrated it this week. And she's going to not be happy with me about that, but I'll bring up Erin and then Alex, and then we'll bring up Pleasant Run Elementary. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much. I'm going to talk a little bit about our experience with Yonder pouches so far here at Colerain. Just within the first quarter of introducing Yonder pouches, both high schools have seen a dramatic decrease in failure rates, which is definitely something exciting. Colerain High School specifically has also seen a decrease or a 10% decrease in failures. As a result, student academic success has increased and can be seen in the number of students on the honor roll, as well as an increase in the numbers of the district MOI walkthrough rubric used to monitor instruction and classroom engagement, and an overall increase in positive school morale and spirit. I'll get to that a little bit more later too. When you walk through our classrooms, students are engaged in their learning with no outside distractions from cell phones or personal devices. It should also be noted that we have had a major decrease in social media concerns that lead to potential physical confrontations and mental health issues. Students are able to process information with individuals and resources, not inaccurate information that is continuously spread via social media or text messages throughout the school day. Additionally, at Colerain, we have seen a dramatic decrease in code of conduct violations such as fighting, which is currently down 84% so far this year compared to last, and skipping, which is down 63% from last year.
With that being said, Code 109 is a lower level code for non-approved use of technology, and that that is actually up this year, and although that might not sound like a success, we fully believe that this is a clear sign that teachers and administration are working together to proactively address situations before they escalate to severe situations. Overall, many staff have indicated an increase in teacher morale. Staff members have stated that they are able to focus on instruction and student success rather than continuously monitoring electronic device usage and issues that impact the learning environment. Overall, our Yonder Pouch initiative has been very successful, and I am excited to learn more about and see the changes throughout the school year. Alex is going to now talk to us about SmartPass. Sorry.
Very good. Thank you, Erin. So SmartPass is our new digital hall pass system that we've implemented at both of the high schools. It is a system that allows us to have students make a pass within their classroom and gain permission from another person rather than just their teacher on a number of pieces. It allows us to put in place restrictions based on who's in the hallway together or who's in a specific room together. And it also allows us to monitor of who is in a specific room or area at any point in the school day. One of the things that this has helped with, as we've talked about many data points already regarding the classroom environment, is also attendance. Is not only are we ensuring that students are at school, we're ensuring that they're in their classroom. And this allows us to have an objective way to actually measure the amount of times that student is spent outside of their classroom rather than in their classroom. So it's a data point that is helpful in the collaboration between the school, students, and families as well. So we've seen through this many of the data points that Erin mentioned can be attributed to this as well, as we're ensuring safety and appropriate engagement, not just within the classroom, but with the rest of the building as well. We've also been able to be proactive in situations, as Jake mentioned, ensuring that we're able to monitor these certain areas and also understanding how much time a student may or may not be spending outside of class to ensure that they're in their classroom. And another piece that I think is an unintended positive in regards to it is as we, as administrators or teachers, are able to look at the hall monitor dashboard at any moment, we're able to see the faces and names of students who are in the hallway, allowing us to greet this student by name. And especially as a new administrator, it's been a way that I've been able to learn names of our students and be able to speak to them by name in the hallway and have those positive interactions. So again, it's another system that we've been able to implement at both high schools to ensure safety and positive engagement within our hallways and within other parts of the building as well.
Thank you, Erin and Alex. Last but certainly not least on our classroom environment, I would love to welcome Jamel Weathers and her wonderful friend and student, Aaliyah, up to talk a little bit more about why all of this data that we talked about and all of these words matter, because at the end of the day, this is about our kids. And so wanted to end this part of our State of the District putting the student's voice first at the center. So thank you both so much for being here. Aaliyah, it's getting late. Do you have homework to do when you go home?
Not that much.
Awesome.
I do.
Probably English.
Good evening. My name's Jamel Weathers. I am the proud principal of Pleasant Run Elementary School. And this year, PRE, well, previous years, but especially this year, we've increased our focus on community. We want to help all students experience a sense of belonging. We know when students feel a part of the community, they are more likely to attend school and perform well at school. Our teachers through the Kid Whisperer training have done, they create class names, they even create classroom cheers. So one of my favorites this year is a teacher will say to her students, "#1 kids," and they reply, "We're #1." It's really fun because they feel, it's like, really? #1, it's great. And they all smile and feel connected. Communities also offer support. Our grade level partners our grade levels have partnered up and complete community service projects at least twice a year. Communities are welcoming, and so students are greeted at the school and their classroom door every day. Communities allow for individuality, and students earn points through our PBIS program, which all of our schools are implementing successfully, and they're able to purchase activities and items that they love. At PRE, we also know that a student's basic needs must be met in order for them to be ready to learn. To support students and families during difficult times, we've partnered with the district social worker to address housing concerns. We've also partnered with the Free Store to provide weekly power packs for those students in need. PRE believes learning should be fun and meaningful, which makes it easier for students to participate in the learning. We have focused on increasing our use of academic teaming, tapping into that natural social instinct our children have. We focus on creating tasks that provide meaningful learning, but build in student choice. Overall, PRE is filled with fabulous students, and tonight, Aaliyah Bixler would like to share her thoughts about PRE. I think, not this one, come over. You ready? Okay.
My name is Aaliyah Bixler. I am a 4th grader at PRE. I love PRE. It's an encouraging school. They show us how to be kind. The teachers always make me feel comfortable no matter what my emotions are. They help me solve problems with my friends against my bullies. PRE makes learning fun, like when we built Town, saw fire trucks, and went on field trips. We earn points for being respectful, kind, and reflective. We use our points to shop for activities or prizes we like. PRE makes me feel amazing, and I'm glad to be a knight.
Good job. Very good.
Good evening. My name is Brenda Miller, and I'm the Director of Curriculum. And with me this evening is Lori Reilly, Assistant Director of Curriculum. You've heard so far that we have specific intentional goals in the areas of reducing chronic absenteeism, as well as changing and improving our classroom environment and student behavior. Both of those things are essential for us to be able to make the gains we are shooting to make in the area of student achievement. Really quickly, we would like to just share with the community our district report card for the 2023-24 school year. As a district, our overall rating remained at 3 stars. The state defines a 3-star rating as meeting state standards. However, we have 2 areas of our report card that need attention because we are below standards. The areas are achievement and progress. We also have areas where we have scored at 3 and 4 and 5-star ratings, as you can see on the screen. Last year, we stood before you as a community and as a school board and talked about how disappointed and concerned we were about the fact that we had 24 ratings across our district and building report cards that were below state standards. We set a goal to significantly reduce the number of ratings below that standard. We are proud to share with you that we had success in reducing the number of ratings below 3 stars from 24 in the 2022-23 school year to 13 in the 23-24 school year. We are not satisfied with where we are at, and we continue to work to increase the number of star ratings on our report card that are at least at state standards, but that is not where we want to finish. One step at a time, we need to improve so that we are making sure that we do not have ratings below state standards on our local report card.
Hi, good evening. I am Lori Reilly, the Assistant Director of Curriculum. One specific area we want to highlight tonight is our early literacy component rating. This is one area in which we were able to move from a 2-star to a 3-star. The early literacy component area, the increase in this area came through very much intentionality. We were intentional with our use of resources, support, and training so that we could see improved student achievement. We know, research says that a student's ability to read at grade level by 3rd grade is the greatest predictor of success in the future. We understand the importance of that and know that this component of the report card is foundational in making sure that our students are successful in the future in all content areas. In the area of early literacy, there are 3 different measures that make up the component. There's the grade 3 ELA proficiency, the improving literacy, and the promotion to 4th grade. The grade 3 ELA proficiency is a reflection on the number of students in 3rd grade that was able to pass the 3rd grade OST test in ELA with a rating of proficient or higher, or students that did not score proficient or higher, however, they did meet the reading subscore, meaning that their reading skills are very strong, but they could use a little bit more support in their writing. Last year, you can see that our percentage was 63.4. The improving literacy measure reflects the number of students we are able to move from off track the previous year to on track this year. Last year, we were able to move 41.3% of our students from off track to on track. And the promotion to 4th grade simply reflects the number of students that we are able to get to meet the 3rd grade reading guarantee requirements in some way, shape, or fashion. All 3 of these areas are weighted differently in the calculation. However, our 3rd grade ELA proficiency has the greatest weight with 40%. I want to take a minute to put these numbers in perspective because right now they're just numbers and you're not really sure exactly, is this good, is this not good? This is our trend for 2 of these measures. You can see from the slide that our 3rd grade ELA proficiency trend continues to increase over the past 3 years. You will also see that our improving literacy trend also continues to increase. As I said before, this is truly a reflection of the fantastic teachers that we have in our elementary buildings that are taking their jobs very seriously, understand how important it is for a student to be able to read, and are doing everything they can to make a difference. One thing that I also want to point out is we kind of know a little bit of where we are so far this year. So one thing about the early literacy component rating is that for kindergarten, 1st, and 2nd grade, we get those numbers after our fall benchmark assessment. So once we give our MAP assessment, we actually know what some of those percentages are coming back. So far this year, you can see that we've had a 37.11% increase. So let me explain what that means. That means that of the kindergartners last year that were off track, they have an off-track status based on how they scored on a benchmark assessment. We were able to move 37.11 of them to an on-track status. On track meaning that they are near or at grade level. For 2nd grade, we are looking at 1st graders, last year off track, now on track in 2nd grade. Our 3rd grade score is not final because our 3rd graders actually have several opportunities throughout the year to get an on-track status with their state assessments that they take in the fall and the spring. But there is one thing particular that I want to point out about our 3rd grade numbers. We are starting this year in 3rd grade with 107 fewer students off track. That means that our kindergartner, first and second grade teachers continue to get the work done and are getting kids on track faster. This is a huge celebration and reflects the work that we are doing. Speaking of the work that we are doing, like I said earlier, all of this comes with very much intentionality. At this time, I would like to bring up Miss Caroline Seitz. Ms. Seitz is a first grade teacher at Taylor Elementary. She was part of our ELA curriculum adoption team last year. She also was the Taylor PTA Teacher of the Year last year. And she is here to share some of those intentional things that are happening in the district and the work that our teachers are doing day in and day out to impact student achievement in the area of early literacy.
Hi everyone, as Lori said, my name is Caroline Seitz. I'm a first grade teacher at Taylor Elementary, and I'm going to talk to you all a little bit about the professional learning that the district has invested in its teachers. So one way that the district has invested in our elementary teachers is through our letters training. Letters training is something that all of our elementary teachers received that taught us all about the science of reading. We know that the science of reading is the best way to teach our kids how to read and write. So these trainings helped us feel more comfortable in the classroom so that we can feel confident that what we're teaching our students is truly what they need to know and the best way for them to learn. Throughout the training, we looked at different strategies to teach our students. We looked at work samples. We heard from people who are very educated on the topic to teach us about the best way that we can teach our students how to read and write. This created a lot of efficacy among teachers because I know I can confidently say, and many other teachers can too, that we just feel more comfortable in what we're teaching, and we know that this is truly the right way to teach kids how to read and write, and our results are proving that. So the way that we're able to bring this into the classroom was through our new ELA adoption that we went through. So I was a teacher that got to pilot one of the programs last year, and I had a super positive experience with it. So we chose 2 different ELA programs, and teachers across the districts got to pilot the programs and test it out to see how our students would do with it. Both of the programs align to the science of reading, which is what we were taught in our letters training. So we knew that both of them would be a good choice, whichever one that we went with. The teachers were encouraged to really give it their all and teach it with fidelity. And like I said, I had a super positive experience doing this. And I knew that the district truly cared about which program they were going to choose and which program that we felt like was best for our students. One really cool part of this process was how we actually chose which curriculum would be best for our students. We created a team of teachers, of administrators. We received feedback from parents, from students. We looked at data. We looked at truly everything that we could in order to make the best, most educated decision. And this showed me that the district really cares about what we're choosing to teach our children, and they care about what the teachers have to say, what the parents have to say, and we're truly all a team in teaching our kids what is best. So it was a really awesome, meaningful experience that I got to go through, and ultimately we chose the Core Knowledge Language Arts program that we're now starting to implement this year into the classrooms. So this is now my 2nd year teaching since I piloted it last year, and I have great positive things to say about it for sure. CKLA is teaching the necessary skills that our youngest students need to read and write, and it aligns really well with what we've spent a lot of our time learning about through letters. So it's exciting to see what all the teachers have learned about and now applying it into the classroom. It also introduces knowledge that our students have not previously learned about, and some of the knowledge even teachers and parents haven't learned about. So it's a really cool, positive experience. There's a lot of intentional planning that's also happening around teachers in the district. Our administrators have made sure that we set aside time to collaborate with our teams to make sure that we are talking about what's working, what's not working, and making sure that everybody's doing what's best for their students. And we're also collaborating with other teachers throughout the district, which is cool. So one of my favorite things about CKLA and teaching the science of reading is the increase that I've seen in my students' engagement. So some of the pictures on the slides here are my students from last year and this year, just demonstrating some of the things that we have learned. So in the first picture, these are some of my students putting together a puzzle of the muscular system when we were learning about the human body. The next picture is my students who were learning about astronomy. We got to learn about all the different planets. They got to make a fun little craft about it. The next picture is one of my students practicing our transcriptions that we learned from ancient Egypt into Play-Doh. And then the last picture on this screen is one of my students' favorites this year. This really helps their reading abilities. We have awesome decodable readers in all of our classrooms that the kids get to hold in their hands and practice reading engaging stories every day. So this picture just shows two of my students who are partner reading together. And like I said, it's been really exciting for my kids this year, and they enjoy reading, they enjoy writing, and as a teacher, I really couldn't ask for anything more for my students. Another cool part about CKLA is that the topics that they learn about will spiral throughout all of their years. So if they learn about the human body or astronomy or weather, they may learn about similar things the next year, but it may be more challenging for them. So they're able to create meaningful experiences with it, which I think is a really neat part of it. Another part that I have seen about CKLA that has been positive for me is the parent feedback that I've received. At conferences, I've had teachers tell me that their students are excited about reading and writing, and they're seeing the growth at home. And they're also telling me that their students come home and share things with them that they didn't even know. I actually did an activity with my students the other day. We were talking about vaccines and who created the first vaccine, and I encouraged them to go home and ask their parents if they knew about it so they can kind of share their learning with them at home too. So just to conclude my thoughts about our early literacy in the district, I think that we've really shown that we care a lot about early literacy, and we've invested a lot of time in professional learning for our teachers, and our results are proving that. So I'm very happy to be a part of all of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Caroline, for sharing your experiences with all of us. Fantastic work. The second area of the report card that we really would like to celebrate is the gap closing component. Gap closing is the measure of reduction in educational gaps for groups of students. In this area, Northwest Local School District earned a 5-star rating, which is the top rating that the state of Ohio awards. This rating means that we significantly exceeded state standards. In 2022-23, our rating as a district for gap closing was 4 stars. The primary reason for us increasing our rating to 5 stars was because of the progress that all of our students made in math. In the Northwest Local School District, we have 9 groups of students who we are held accountable for on the report card. You can see those listed on the bottom of the screen. They include students from different racial ethnic groups, as well as students with disabilities, English learners, and our students who are economically disadvantaged or their families. We also, in this component, have a huge piece that is related to our gifted learners. So the progress that our students made in math is the reason why Northwest Local School District was able to achieve this top rating. As Lori said with literacy, this came about because of some very intentional action and commitment from our teachers. We worked hard over the last 5 years to really shift our focus in math from teaching for procedural understanding, where we're memorizing just routines, procedures, and facts, to switching to a model that is very much trying to build deeper understanding or conceptual understanding. We had a lot of professional development to help us with making that shift. Just like in literacy, we also made some choices. Our teachers were very much a part of this in selecting resources that align to this type of instruction and to the rigor of the Ohio State standards. Professional development included support from math coaches who worked with teachers in the classroom in a job-embedded way to improve outcomes for students in math. We also have moved, not just in math, but in all of our areas, to aligned common assessments district-wide. That's something that we've added this year for all of our tested grades and subjects, and something that we're looking at very closely. Additionally, a major shift that Mr. Kuhnlein already started to talk with you about is us really articulating together what we believe good instruction looks like. In our model of instruction, which we call MOI, we are focusing on making sure that we are aligned to the standards that the state has set forth, in the targets that we put before our kids each day, making sure that we have tasks for our students that are going to engage them, like Caroline said, and making sure that we're looking and listening for evidence of student learning with clearly defined criteria for success. We've been working hard to implement, like Jamel shared with you, student-led teaming so that our students have opportunities to have ownership in their learning and high levels of engagement, and that they all have voice in the classroom. And finally, making sure that we're not just monitoring for evidence of learning through assessments where we stop instruction, but we're actually listening and looking for evidence of student learning in the moment in our classrooms. I would like to invite up Kelsey Frederick from Coleraine High School. She is also one of our teachers. She was an early adopter of our model of instruction, and I could not say enough about how impressed I am with the way that Kelsey has opened up her classroom to other teachers and to district leaders to help us all learn and grow and see that our students can learn in this type of model.
Good evening. Like Brenda said, I'm Kelsey Frederick. I teach here at Coleraine High School. About 3 years ago, I was asked to join our join a group of educators across the district to go through our academic teaming training. The district partnered with Instructional Empowerment as an educational resource to really help facilitate or guide us as a staff to figuring out what shifts should be made for our students and for our staff. As a result, we began to rewrite the script on what teaching looks like, but more importantly, what learning sounds like. I think we can all agree that teaching and learning is very different than when we left it before the pandemic. At the very basic level, the moves our teachers are making results in the shifting of the classroom from being teacher-centered to student-centered, intentionally planning, designing instruction to support student teaming, and formatively assessing to gauge student mastery or the changes we are making as teachers. And these changes are allowing teachers to meet students' needs through facilitation. This looks different at all grade levels, in all buildings. Every teacher, classroom, and group of students is different, but we have established that students working together with specific roles, student awareness for their learning targets and success criteria of a lesson, and utilizing supportive resources, including each other, is actually an effective instructional practice. I am a teacher of 130 kiddos. I'm not a teacher of 6 bells anymore. And with that, I think that it is necessary at this time for teachers to start seeing that facilitating learning among students is where we should be. Creating engaging lessons that are aligned to state standards, organizing student tasks or responsibilities with routine and consistency, as well as access to their peers as a method of support, by allowing students to lean on each other as they productively struggle through the rigorous learning processes or tasks that we are challenging them with, and tracking their progress or growth is where we have landed as a district for what we are aiming to achieve in every class, as Brenda said, is the model of instruction, or MOI. These shifts are being felt and noticed by students too. I want to share with you all the student perspectives of what they are experiencing and appreciating in a student-centered classroom. The video that I'm about to show you was made with students of mine, as well as our curricular department member, Kristen Andrews. So let's hear from a couple of our students and what they're experiencing, and then I'll kind of wrap up for you.
Hi, my name is Ella Martini, and I'm a grade junior at Coleraine High School.
Hi,
freshman now, and I'm a junior at Corning High School. I think me and my classmates are more engaged in class with the activities because we get to hear each other's opinions on the topic, and we get to help each other like figure out answers and really analyze the work that we do. I feel like we're doing a good work that all of our voices are being heard because I make sure that we all make sure that women are having a chance to say what we want to say or doing the assignments, and I think that's really necessary when you're doing with a group assignment for each person to be able to be heard and say like what they want to say and have their own opinion.
My name is DeMarco Gates. I'm in the 11th grade and I'm in Ms. Frederick's government class. This year with Ms. Frederick, we've been working in groups and like collaborating with each other to come up with our answers. And we did vocab chunking with our groups, and we talked about like where the vocab words belong and like what categories they're specified on, and that helped me to remember the vocab words more and what they mean and like how they are applied to the government.
That goes like, no. We got it.
Working in groups have also helped me to be able to talk with other people better and have more people skills and knowing how to communicate, which can help me in like college when I need to work with others and work on projects and things like that, and also in the job sense if I need to do a group to get something done.
So I think that doing group work in classes helps me to communicate better, it helps my social skills, and helps prepare me for a career when I might have to work with other people, especially on projects. So we grouped these in an economic category, and we have like our grants, and then capitalism and revenue sharing. And then that group is for court cases, like McCollum versus Maryland and US versus Lopez.
I've also been able to work with other people and like resolve, conflicts. If one person has this opinion, the other person has that opinion, being able to work together and figure things out, and that's been very helpful in this subject class.
I feel that working as a group gives you the ability to become the leader of the group. For instance, one time in our class, we did this assignment where each student had a role in the group, and one of the roles was to be like the leader of the group and to go in front of the class and like speak on what your group talked about. And I felt like that was really important. It really helped us be able to talk in front of the class, and it just helped with like your social skills and like that.
So as you heard, the changes that we are making are being noticed and appreciated by even our students. Staff at all levels are actively planning and executing our MOI in preparation to achieve the improvements outlined in our One Plan over the next 3 years. The continuum rubric used to gauge our MOI implementation and success was collaboratively developed with district staff, building administrators, teachers, both certified and classified. We are already seeing improvements indicated by the growth measures we achieved success in for the latest report card that Brenda shared with you. Because again, this work has already been in place. It's been working in progress for the past 3 years. And a lot of our recent gain can be attributed to the quality of our instruction in our classrooms improving as a result of the implementation of our MOI. In conclusion, chronic absenteeism is down, and every teacher has a better chance of supporting students learning when they are physically in our rooms and tasked with the rigorous instruction that we have intentionally planned and designed for them to engage in. Kids may not mind coming to school as much when it's engaging, challenging, yet achievable and rewarding. This one improvement, the purpose for why we're all here, for how we educate our kids in our classrooms and strengthening our instructional practices causes a domino effect which is beginning to alleviate so many other challenges we tend to face in achieving the success and growth that we know our students are capable of. The growth we have already achieved is a testament to the work that is being done by our staff and our students across our district, buildings, and our classrooms. I hope that I've highlighted some of the how behind our gap closing achievements. It takes an army, right, to make this all happen. But I appreciate your time this evening, and I'm looking forward to the success we continue to go and see through the next 3 years.
Thank you, Kelsey. We couldn't have said it any better. So just to conclude our academic achievement one plan instructional goal, I want to share the goal with you here. So by the end of the 26-27 school year, the Northwest Local School District will earn an overall component rating on the local report card of at least 4 stars. Remembering that at the current time we are at 3 stars and we're making steady improvements and will continue to do so. In order to make sure that we stay on track and that we are not relying on a strategy like HOPE, we have specific adult measures and student measures in place. Our adult measures include district and building instructional walkthroughs in our classrooms. Our goal for this school year is that 25% more of our teachers score a 12 or higher for the 3 instructional components of our model of instruction. That means that they're scoring, just like with classroom environment, they're scoring at that 4 level on each component that Mr. Kuhnlein talked about earlier. Our other adult measure, because we know if we don't change what we do as adults, setting goals for improving student achievement don't make sense because we're going to continue to get the results that we always have. So by monitoring our classrooms through district and building instructional walkthroughs, and also working to ensure that we're implementing strong continuous improvement processes through teacher-based teams, we know that we're on the right track. We're doing the work. But at the end of the day, if those actions don't yield measurable improvement in student achievement, we have not met the goal. We therefore have very specific measures and things that we're monitoring for students and student outcomes. One of those is performance index. Performance index makes up that achievement component that I showed you earlier, where we did score below state standards. Our goal is to increase performance index this year by 6 points, and 6 points for the next 2 years, overall increasing 18 points in total for performance index. We're measuring performance index not by waiting for our next report card, but through a system of common assessments across the district that we are looking at through the lens of performance index. As Lori said, we've made huge gains in the area of literacy as well, but we feel it's essential, since literacy is such a strong predictor of student outcomes, that we continue to monitor that as a student measure. We are looking to increase that 3rd grade reading proficiency that is part of the K-3 literacy component by 7 percentage points annually in terms of students who are scoring at that proficient level. And now we'll move into financial stability with our CFO Treasurer, Amy Wells.
Good evening. As mentioned earlier, financial stability is one of our pillars of our strategic plan. We believe that it is important to maintain financial stability to ensure we have the resources available to achieve our goals. The objectives we use to maintain financial stability is to communicate with our community, to align our resources to our instructional priorities, and to partner with our community. We have some policies and resolutions that we follow, including a community partnership that caps our operational growth at 3%. We have a cash reserve balance, which requires us to have at least 60 days of cash on hand. This is so that for things that are unseen, like downturns in the economy, natural disasters, unfunded mandates, and one-time needs. Our community has also asked us to have smaller levies, so when we're looking to have increased revenue, we're looking to make sure that that revenue will last at least 5 years and not be more than 5 mills. And we are always aligning our resources to our instructional priorities. We are continuously communicating with our community by publishing an annual budget document every summer. This document provides our community with information of the upcoming school year's budget and how we are aligning our resources to our instructional priorities, as well as measuring our goals. We present and approve a 5-year forecast each November, which shows what our revenues and expenditures are for the current year, as well as our assumptions and projections for the next 4. We update these figures in May. In December, we publish our financial statements and annual audit from the previous year. And in the fall each year, we send our residents a summary financial statement of the previous year's financials. We do this to make sure our community is informed of how we are funded, how we utilize our funds, and what our needs are to provide our educational services. We utilize benchmarks to maintain our expenditures and to focus on our priorities. These include making sure at least 70% of our resources are allocated to instruction. In fiscal '23, 72% of our budget was to instruction, and last year in fiscal '24, 76% was allocated to instruction. We also use per pupil and per staff as well as square feet allocations and have a staffing plan as well as other plans that we utilize to maximize our expenditures. For our community partnership, this caps our annual growth at no more than 3% per year. It has a continuous focus on student achievement, and it also maintains the community's investment in our infrastructure, our facilities, technology, and equipment. And last year, we were able to allocate one-time funds, $10 million, to a capital maintenance plan. This is to prevent deferred maintenance with our 3 newer elementaries as well as Montfort Heights Elementary. And then we allocated $20 million to assist our community with our master facility plan, which we are currently utilizing to build a new Colerain Elementary with no bond to our community. But we do have 5 more buildings with significant needs. Thank you.
So in conclusion, I want to take a moment as we wrap up, and I want to thank the voices you heard tonight. I know tonight we shared a lot of information. The one thing that I hope you heard from all of the voices tonight, our administrators, our teachers, and our student, is that as a district, we know where we're going. We are not where we want to be, but we will get there. We have focused on intentionally putting strategies in place, using data to monitor those strategies, and to continuously monitor those so that we're not surprised by the data. That way we can adjust if we need to. We are being intentional, focused, and strategic with all of our work, and the voices of our staff are loud and resonating through the strategies we have so that we can make sure that we're aligning the resources to have the biggest impact. Kelsey said it, that she doesn't teach 6 bells. She teaches 130 children. We don't have content, we have kids. And we know that our goals will be realized, and the vision of our district, when our students are all known by name, story, strength, and need, by caring adults in the district. And those relationships will build up over time to make sure that our students and our staff all experience success. As a district, we have a lot of things going on. Casey has different strategies than Jamel. Even Alex and Aaron, as collaborative as they are, have to have somewhat different strategies and differentiated strategies for their 2 buildings. So we have very precise things happening, but as a district, when you put all that together, we are a strong district. We are moving forward, and we have amazing staff, amazing kids, and amazing families doing great things every day, and we are excited to continue this journey and build to the next chapter of the district and realize our goals. And so we are excited to share this with you tonight. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for your engagement. Thank you for your support. We will continue to meet our challenge. Thank you.